Welcome back to the show. Luke Beasley filling in for David while he is away. If you want to check me out, you like what you see, Luke Beasley on YouTube. The link should be in the description if you're watching on YouTube. Radical Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene appeared on Fox News with Sean Hannity, kind of continuing in her tour of trying to make herself more mainstream. Let's forget all the past bonkers, conspiracy theorist things I've said and make me a serious congresswoman, and conservative media is assisting in that, and the Republican Party is assisting in that. Well, especially the third clip I'm going to show you out of this interview really highlights how little both Sean Hannity and Marjorie Greene understand about what they're talking about, and it's honestly really embarrassing for these two individuals. But before we do that, the first two clips relate to the removing of certain Democratic congresspeople from committees. So I'll show you these and then we'll get to the really bonkers clip.
No, not at all. And you can see there's a major difference in the leadership with Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House and Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House. Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats removed me from committees from things they didn't like on my Facebook years before I became a member of Congress. But you can see that Kevin McCarthy isn't being political. He's removing members of Congress that need to be removed.
So she's correct that Nancy Pelosi and Kevin McCarthy are very different in the type of speaker they're going to be, but not in the way that she would believe necessarily. And I'll show you the next clip actually, and then we'll discuss about this committee's issue.
Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House is doing the right thing and removing these Democrat members that deserve to be removed. Ilhan Omar is another example. She's anti-Semitic and she should not be on foreign affairs. These aren't political things. These are the right things to do.
So from the Jewish space lasers believing person, she's saying that Ilhan Omar is anti-Semitic and that's why she shouldn't be on committees. But to the point of Kevin McCarthy is not doing these actions for political purposes, but instead for good reason, is completely silly. Because I don't think there's any better reason to remove someone from committees than the reasons Democrats did. Paul Gosar posting that animation of AOC getting killed, and then Marjorie Greene and all of her conspiracy theories, the Jewish space lasers, and all of that. Those are good reasons that someone probably shouldn't be serving on committees. It's absolutely 100% political that Kevin McCarthy is taking people off of committees that are perfectly qualified to serve in those positions, but are Democrats. And that's the real reason. Okay, so third clip. Watch them discuss and watch how Sean Hannity sets up the conversation around the debt ceiling and how deeply confused he gets, and then Marjorie Greene just goes along with the confusion.
Let me ask you, I know the Democrats desperately want to distract from the issue of the president and classified top secret documents now in 4 locations. I get that. So they're trying to gin up the American people on the issue of the debt ceiling. My understanding is that really won't be an issue for a number of months. But when it is an issue, what will Republicans do? Will they be united? What are the things that they will demand in exchange for going along with the debt ceiling? Because the hyperbole, I'm sure, will be out of control. The full faith of the United States government is on the line, and credit of the government is on the line. You're going to shut down the government, and meanwhile, people will still get their Social Security checks, their Medicare, the military will be up and running, and most people get a furlough and then get paid when they get back to work. So all that hyperbole is coming, but what will the Republicans want, and will they stay together?
Okay, so we will let Marjorie Greene answer, but first, let's just kind of break down what was so confused about that setup to the question. What did he do there? He merged the concepts of funding the government and raising the debt ceiling. Now, these things will coincide and the negotiations might get intertwined and be going on at similar times, but the funding of the government and the government shutdowns that are threatened is different than the raising of the debt ceiling and us following through on our financial obligations. So he's correct that whenever we get in the negotiations about funding the government, if they don't come to an agreement within the government and the government shuts down, the necessary functions of the government still move forward, but if it goes on long enough, negative consequences absolutely occur. But then he shifted and kind of blended into the full faith and credit of the United States and the fact that we would be in a bad economic situation and we would be losing worldwide credibility if we didn't raise the debt ceiling and follow through on our financial obligations, and blending those two things in his setup to make it seem like it's not a big deal and they're gonna fearmonger, so whenever you hear it, don't take it seriously. But we should take seriously both of those things, but not raising the debt ceiling could be disastrous, and it's not the time to argue over spending. If you don't want the government to spend as much, you have to push for that when you're deciding on spending. That makes a whole lot of sense, which would be when you're passing bills, when you're debating over the funding of different programs. But when you talk about raising the debt ceiling, that's just following through on financial obligations, spending that's already been committed to. And we must do that to stay credible as a government with debt and all of those things. And so he's completely discombobulated setting up that question, but here's her answer.
Well, I think this is an important issue to talk about, Sean. Thank you for bringing it up. But we also want to point out that Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden, Mitch McConnell, all of who have served, if you add up the years they've been in Congress or in power in Washington, we're looking at 150 years of four people's combined time in Washington. So they know what they're doing when they kick the can down the road, giving the debt ceiling issue to the Republican majority, which we started here in January. It's an important issue for our conference to come together on because, as you said, the government will keep on running. Yes, people's social...
And again, she's merging the concepts. But we will skip forward to a pretty notable part here at the end.
...have to have. I, for one, will not sign a clean bill raising the debt limit.
So she won't buy into a clean bill raising the debt ceiling. There it is. And I've talked about extensively now on my show that this is the Republican nonsense we saw foreshadowed with the Kevin McCarthy speakership debacle. And we're going to be experiencing this. I know David has also talked a ton about this. We will be experiencing this for the next 2 years, and it will be disaster after disaster and debacle after debacle.
You might remember that a few years ago, the show got hacked and many thousands of dollars were stolen. We never got it back. It's a terrible feeling. It can happen to anyone. But a couple of years ago, we got Aura, which really gives us significantly more peace of mind. And our sponsor, Aura, is the app that protects you from scammers by alerting you anytime your info like email, passwords, social security number are found in data breaches. Aura also automatically requests removal of your info from search engines, and it can reduce spam calls. Aura alerts you quickly about suspicious credit inquiries, like if someone tries to take a loan out in your name. And Aura's password manager makes it easy to keep your accounts secure to begin with. Aura also has parental controls for your kids' devices. You can restrict apps or manage screen time, set focus time, make sure they're doing homework instead of binging on YouTube. You can try Aura free for 14 days at aura.com/Pacman. Use the free trial to see if your email, password are already out there. You may be surprised. The link is down below.